guys, so a little bit different intro to our video today. We found baby bunnies in my front yard. Look at it. This one's named Carrots. Over here, this one's named Lettuce.
This is where the hole was, right?
And we have a third one named Cabbage. He's around here somewhere. But I just wanted to show you guys the babies.
Yeah, they didn't have it.
Aren't they cute?
They didn't have any fur.
All right, back to class. After the fourth walk today, Copper's a little sleepy. Hey everybody, it's Thursday, which means it's the last day for social studies class this week. We are nowhere near done with World War I. It's just getting started. Remember I said this is a 2-week unit. So Thursday, this is like our halfway point, so to say. And today we're going to talk about new kinds of fighting in this war. It's going to get crazy. And new styles of fighting are going to come out, new weapons. So buckle up. It's going to be a wild ride. We're going to talk about journals today. You're going to do a little bit of reading, and a little bit of writing. So yesterday I said that Europeans really hoped that this war was going to end quickly. They had hopes, and they quickly see that's not going to happen. This war is going to last a long time. And they just can tell based on this new style of fighting, because it was really hard for one side to gain an advantage. And this new military strategy that people have never seen before is called trench warfare. And this really was the main reason why this war couldn't end quickly. So early in the war, both sides turned to this idea of trench warfare. And trench warfare is a style of fighting where both sides dig ditches. So these long ditches in the ground. And that's where they keep their soldiers. So their soldiers are actually fighting from in the ground. Just to kind of give you a visual, remember in Holes, when we watched Holes, and they started digging those long tunnels, those could be considered trenches. You can also see, there's some pictures on the slides. I know they're hard to see in the video, but when you take a look at this on your own, you can view them there. Both the Allies and the Central Powers dug hundreds of miles of trenches along the front lines, and that's where they're going to put a majority of their soldiers. And these trenches, you might think, oh, well, maybe they won't be as likely to be injured because, they're in the ground. That's not the case, because countries are going to develop new ways of fighting. That's actually going to affect these trenches. But that is the new kind of style of fighting that comes out of World War I. Really? Right before I started recording this, I checked my space bar, and I was like, oh my gosh, it changed the slides so quickly. And then I start recording and it doesn't. So trench warfare, just to kind of give you more background knowledge into that. Not only did soldiers live in the constant danger of being attacked, but cold, hunger, and disease also plagued them, because they're all living down in those trenches. So they're stuck down there, basically. It's freezing. They're hungry. Not many armies are actually able to get food down into the trenches, so food only comes sporadically. Trench warfare is going to cost millions of lives, but neither side could end the war fast enough, because these trenches enabled the war to go on for longer. The trenches were dug in zigzag patterns to prevent the enemy from firing down the length of a trench. So the zigzag was to create, their enemies, would fly overhead. And if they dug the trench in a straight line, the plane could just down the line. The zigzag, however, you couldn't do that because a plane's not going to be able to fly in a zigzag pattern. So they weren't dug just in straight lines. Each side used airplanes to observe troop movements. So they would fly these airplanes overhead and be like, what's Germany doing? What's France doing? What's Russia doing? We also are going to see the introduction of tanks. So we see tanks in modern warfare today, but this is the first time that tanks are really going to be used. And the tanks were used to launch attacks across the trenches and rough terrain. So they designed the tank to be able to go over this rough terrain that they were in. Some countries, specifically Germany and Russia, are also going to start using poison attacks. So soldiers are actually going to have to wear an air mask, or a gas mask, not an air mask, sorry. Gas mask, because they couldn't breathe in that poison. So Germany and Russia would fire these poison, almost kind of like grenades, into the trenches that would erupt in this poisonous gas. And if the soldier didn't have his gas mask on, well, you get the idea. So soldiers would have to go around with this gas mask on all day, and it covered their whole entire face. So in the heat, this was not ideal. Soldiers would also have to protect themselves from small bombs known as grenades, because those were easy to fire into the trenches. And anytime now. Oh, there it goes. It's not totally easy to see, but I want to talk about a few of these pictures. So you can see down here, you see the trench is not a straight line. It's that zigzag pattern. Over here is the gas mask that I was telling you about. These are also not easy to see out of. You have those two eye holes, but as soon as dirt gets on them, you have to scrub it off. So that really puts soldiers at a disadvantage. This picture up here is to show you what it's like inside the trench. So you can see they have a walkway and enough space to get up onto the edge and start firing if need be. These trenches were a horrible, horrible way to fight and a horrible place to live for these soldiers. And it's going to cost millions of more lives if they would have just fought in the normal style of fighting. We talked back during the Revolutionary War. Remember, we said soldiers would fight in lines. This, of course, is very different. Come on, I have one more slide. Oh, goodness. Okay. So, new weapons. To gain advantage in the trenches, each side developed new weapons. The machine gun, which was designed to cut down soldiers as they were moving forward. It was faster than a typical rifle. Poison gas, I talked about that. That was developed and first used by the Germans. Russians are going to pick that up pretty quickly. And the poison gas blinded soldiers. So just to think how horrible really it was down in these trenches. The British are who introduced the tank. They're the ones who developed that. At sea, Britain also used their powerful navy to block supplies from reaching Germany. So Germany would use the ocean to gain supplies, and Great Britain would stop that. So effectively, they were keeping the German war effort really low. But Germany is going to respond by creating what are called U-boats, and that's actually a picture of one up there on the slide, and a U-boat is a submarine. So, submarines are boats underwater. And the German U-boats tried to break the British blockade because the British ships set up a blockade, a stopping point that the German ships couldn't pass. And they actually were sinking British ships that were carrying supplies to Great Britain as well. So they broke up the blockade, blocking them from their own country, and they also get their revenge on Great Britain as well. But out of all this, the soldiers they want to be remembered, okay? They want to be remembered for what they're doing because they're defending their countries. Soon we're going to see the United States joins in on the war effort as well. But in these trenches, during the fighting, soldiers write journals. And they write these journals for people nowadays to read and to learn what these soldiers went through. So attached to the assignment today, I've attached a very, very short excerpt from a book called All Quiet on the Western Front. It is fiction. A soldier didn't actually write it, but the idea is the same. And I want you to read this excerpt. It's short. It's like 2 paragraphs. I want you to read it, and I want you to really soak in what these soldiers had to deal with and what they had to do. And they wrote these journals to be remembered. So part of your assignment today, since we're living in this crazy time, is I want you to write a journal as well. Not a long journal. That's not an everyday thing. I want you to write down what you are doing during this pandemic. Because 30, 40, 50 years from now, no one's really going to remember what happened, but you were there. So take these soldiers and what they did, and of course we're not soldiers, but we're still living in a time that's so different from the normal. So read the little excerpt from All Quiet on the Western Front, and then in your assignment you'll see the question. I want you to write a short journal entry about what you've been doing and what you're dealing with. Are you sad that school's over? Did you get something canceled that you didn't want to be canceled? Tell me how you're feeling and tell what you're doing. Are you living with your mom and your dad and your sister, or maybe you're an only child? Explain your story just like these soldiers did in these trenches. So that is your assignment. It's all in the Google Doc. A little bit different, but I think you guys are going to enjoy it. So get started. If you have any questions, don't forget you can email me, and I will see you guys soon.